I first approached Chairman Carper to hold this hearing because of the shock and sadness I felt as I saw events unfolding in Ferguson, Missouri, in the weeks following the death of Michael Brown. I heard reports and saw firsthand about aggressive police actions being used against protesters under the umbrella of, quote, crowd control, and not in response to violence. Like many of you, I saw armored vehicles with a sniper pointing a rifle at an unarmed protester on a warm summer afternoon. I think most Americans were uncomfortable watching a suburban street in St. Louis being transformed with vivid images, powerful images across this country into a war zone, complete with camouflage, tear gas, rubber bullets, armored vehicles, and laser sights on assault weapons. While this hearing may reveal many strong arguments why some of this equipment may be helpful for the safety of police officers in certain situations, I am confident that militarized policing tactics are not consistent with the peaceful exercise of First Amendment rights of free speech and free assembly. I'm hoping that what happened in Ferguson and what we learn at this hearing today will inform a better public policy that will protect our constitutional freedoms and also provide adequate public safety for the brave men and women who put on a uniform every day to protect the people of this great nation through our very admirable rule of law. In Dr. Coburn's state, the Payne City Sheriff's Office has one full-time sworn officer, one. They've gotten 2 MRAPs since 2011. Now, you gave the impression in your testimony that you all are at least doing the minimum about making sure what you give is in somehow proportional to the size of a force. Before you answer that, let me give you this fact. In the Lake Angeles Police Department in Michigan, you gave them 13 military assault weapons since 2011. They have 1 full-time sworn officer. So 1 officer now has 13 military-grade assault weapons in their police department. How in the world can anyone say that this program has 1 lick of oversight if those 2 things are in existence?
The rule of thumb is 1 MRAP validated by the state coordinator for a police department that requests an MRAP, no more than 1. So I'd have to look at the incident in Senator Coburn's state. And same thing with rifles, with weapons.
I will make part of the record the list. We have a long list of law enforcement agencies that received 3 times as many, 5.56 and 7.62 military-grade weapons per full-time officer. And this is a long list. There is a formula that every state gets money regardless of risk, right? It doesn't matter if you have 0 risk in your state, everyone gets money.
There are state minimums prescribed by the Homeland Security.
Which has nothing to do with risk.
Correct.
Okay. I want to make sure we're clear on that. And isn't it true now that rather than these communities coming and saying, this is what we figured out we need, now you tell them how much money they get and they give you a list of what they want to buy with it?
Well, we've actually moved more toward project-based applications where we're asking grantees up front to identify the types of projects and the investment, really with an eye toward tighter fiscal management and oversight of the programs. We want to know more of this. I think the evolution of the program has gone from at a time when there were pretty generic Homeland Security strategies at the state level, where we are trying to tighten the investment justifications and then telling us in advance.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of good during my career, from federal funding to state and local law enforcement. And by the way, I want to be clear, I saw a vehicle extricate some police officers in a pretty dangerous situation in Ferguson once some of the outsiders started coming in from other states that wanted a confrontation with the police. Having said all that, has there been a discussion about perhaps saying the first thing that we would fund before we begin to fund anything else? Not a federal mandate, but rather the first on your list must be body cams? Has that been discussed either at DOJ or at Homeland Security, that these officers that are going to be using some of this equipment, the best way to check whether or not it's being used appropriately is for every officer to wear a camera.
Senator, the Office of Justice programs, our JAG funds are available for law enforcement agencies to use to purchase body cameras, and we do see value in body cameras, but as you know, our National Institute of Justice is studying the effectiveness of body cameras and the appropriate use of body cameras.
But they can buy them now.
Yes, ma'am.
So it wouldn't be hard if we decided, before you get anything else, we're going to insist you use our money for body cams before you buy other things, like full-blown battle gear or camouflage uniforms or grenade launchers that attach to rifles.
The JAG money is formula money, and we do not control how state and local jurisdictions use that money, but it is a permissible use to buy body cameras.
Do you sense that the police community would be offended if we put a few more rules of the road on the ability to receive these resources from the federal government? I mean, why wouldn't we require that if you were going to get federal funding in this space, that you would have to have 200 hours worth of training, and that the size of your police department would be relevant to the decisions as to what you would receive, and that a SWAT team on a very, very small community, particularly one that's a suburb, where there could be regional access to specialists in the rare but very, very important situation where that kind of training is absolutely essential to protect life of innocent people and, most importantly, the lives of the police officers. Why can't we begin to do more with, you know, if we're going to give you money, we're going to make you jump through a few hoops? Is that something that you think the police community would not accept and understand, that this has gone too far?
I've had this conversation with several police chiefs since Ferguson erupted, and I don't think that they would be alarmed by this. I think there's an expectation that there is going to be an adjustment in the program, and the thoughtful police chiefs and sheriffs that I've spoken to about this would agree with what you just said.
In preparing for this hearing, we took a look at a search on Amazon for police officer toys. And what came up, and it's in the packet of pictures that were, the next picture, the one with the, yeah, this is the first thing that came up. And this is a helmet, military helmet. It's a hand grenade, obviously the kind of weaponry that we have not traditionally thought of police officers. Now, these are what parents are buying for their children who say they want to grow up and be police officers. So this is something that has gotten, I think, into our culture that is very, very damaging. For you to begin working on what you think, based on your knowledge of the police community in this country, what would be reasonable changes in policy that would begin to get us back to a place where we have not done, where somebody, a young man who wants to grow up to be a police officer, thinks what he needs to get as part of his uniform is a hand grenade. Obviously, that's a problem. And I would like us to work on that together.